my sweet angels, and welcome to the first video of 2021. I am so excited to be back and filming for you guys. In today's video, I am going to be doing a huge roundup of everything I did and watched and ate and everything that happened to me in quarantine. I really wanted to share some recommendations with you guys because I have watched a lot, I have read a little bit, and I have consumed a lot of media. So without further ado, let's get right on into it. Starting with books. So I didn't really read a ton at the beginning of the year, but as the year kind of came to an end, I really put my mind to it to read as much as I could. So I squeezed in 3 books starting in like October. I first read In 5 Years, and that book was really good. I would highly recommend it if you're into like romance novels, but it's not like a super obvious plot. Like, it definitely has a twist that at least I didn't see coming. I had no idea like what the book was about when I picked it up. That one I would highly recommend. I also read One Day in December, which was more of a traditional romance novel, and then the last book I read was We Were Liars, and I saw like this book circulating a lot just like on YouTube and just on different platforms, and so I finally decided to give it a try. And I won't say what happens, but I definitely didn't see the plot twist coming, but it wasn't how I wanted the book to end. But yeah, those were all of the books I read. I highly recommend In 5 Years and We Were Liars. Even though I didn't love it, I would still recommend it just because it was an entertaining read. Like, once I kind of broke through the introductions, I really wanted to finish it. Yeah, I definitely like watched a lot of TV in quarantine, I'm not gonna lie. It took me a while to get into like new shows, but then I think I just kind of like powered through a ton. Starting with, everybody knows, I did watch Outer Banks, I did watch Tiger King. I mean, those were kind of like the beginning of quarantine. Like, if you didn't watch that, it's kind of like a rite of passage, you know what I mean? But I also watched Emily in Paris. Like, yes, I'm ashamed that I watched it, but it was also like really good. So I am not that upset that I watched it. Like, yeah, it was like really predictable and not, you know, the best, but it was 20 minutes long. If they were an hour long, I probably never would have watched it, but they were 20 minutes. It was like 10 episodes, super easy to get through. So those were all of like the guilty pleasure watch. But you know what? I'm not even guilty about it because I enjoyed watching all 3. So those were like more Netflix kind of like hype shows that I kind of fed into because why else not? There was nothing else on TV. I also decided to watch Vampire Diaries, which I am currently finishing up. I have like a few episodes left. That honestly was pretty good. I missed the hype when I was in high school. I never watched it, and then one day I was just scrolling through Netflix and decided to just binge it all. I wanted a show with like 8 seasons, and so I fully just clicked it and I never looked back. I'm definitely Team Stefan. I am so happy that Elena got killed off. Sorry, that's a spoiler. But yeah, I was obsessed, and honestly my Twitter has just been consumed of live tweeting a show that aired probably 10 years ago, but it's fine. I mean, I enjoyed it. It's fine. We're fine. 2 other Netflix shows that I watched were Never Have I Ever, which is a show that I believe Mindy Kaling wrote and produced. If not, she had like heavy involvement. I believe it's loosely based on her life. That was amazing. I watched all of it in like a day or 2. It was, again, like a 20-minute show, super entertaining. I think it was kind of more geared to like a teenage audience, but I still enjoyed it thoroughly. It had like a lot of messages that were super good, and I don't know, it was a very entertaining watch for me, and I can't wait for season 2. On that same note, I did finally start Good Trouble, which for those of you guys who don't know, is a spinoff of The Fosters, which used to air on ABC Family. But let me tell you, Good Trouble should not even be allowed to air on ABC Family or Freeform, whatever it's called now. It is so good. I binged the entire like 2 seasons that were available. I cannot wait for season 3. I got my sister to watch it, and honestly, my friends Jules and Josephine put me on, so big shout out to you guys, because if you guys wouldn't have put me on, I would have been in the dark. But Good Trouble was so good. I am fully like all about Gael. Again, if you follow my Twitter, you know that I was tweeting about that like in August. I loved it so much. Pretty recently, my sister and I decided to watch Gilmore Girls. I am so happy that we did. It took us a long time to get through season 1, I'm not gonna lie, but now that we're into season 2, the show has a bit more momentum. We're more invested in the characters. It's just like one of those cult classic shows that like you just have to watch, and it was, again, like a show that has a lot of seasons. I'm not gonna get like burnt out, you know, you can pace yourself, so I'm really happy we started watching that. that. I'm obsessed with that right now, but that's like, we're still in progress. That was like a quarantine start, but we're still kind of bringing that into 2021. I can't literally talk about quarantine without talking about this show. I have binged and rewatched New Girl about 1,000 times. If you don't know, it's probably one of my favorite shows. I am so happy that it's still on Netflix. Thank God. I can't deal with streaming services taking things off of Netflix. Like when The Office left, I can't even talk about it. As for the things I have been listening to or listened to in 2020, I didn't do a whole lot of podcast searching. I wish I would have done more, honestly. It just takes me a while to find someone who I really like. I did check out Rohini Elyse's Acting My Age. I listened to a couple episodes. I really like her. I like her energy when she's talking, and it feels kind of raw and real, so I would definitely recommend checking that one out. And then some of my favorite YouTube creators have a podcast called Must Be Nice, and that I really love listening to just because I love their energy, so I was kind of already like feeling their vibe before they even started a podcast. But yeah, that's pretty much the only podcast I listen to. I'm not really a podcast person. I'd really prefer to listen to music. I cannot forget mentioning I did listen to Michelle Obama's podcast this year. Honestly, I just love listening to her voice. Like, she could be saying nothing and I would just be like enticed by her voice. So that was a really great listen for me. I pretty much listened to that when I was cooking a lot, and I don't know, it just kind of soothed me and just made me feel like I was comforted and like her hand was on my shoulder. I don't know, it's kind of ridiculous, but I didn't get into too many podcasts this year. It was kind of just like those three mainly. But as for music, oh honey, we got into some music. I am just going to do a few notable mentions. I'm not going to go through every single song I listened to this year. I will have my Spotify Wrapped linked in the description, and then a couple other playlists that I just made throughout this year. I listened to a lot of music, but not as much as I would have hoped for. I think I kind of consumed most of my like time watching TV shows and doing that. My favorite album of the year, I'm not going to lie to you, is Positions by Ariana Grande. I keep talking about it because it really just came at like the perfect time. I don't think you understand. Like, I was not hype about any music drops or any, I don't even feel like there was like a music drop this year that was like, oh my god, until she dropped something. I also really like Shawn Mendes' Wonder. Those two really kind of helped me finish up my 2020 on like the best note possible. Honestly, I can't pick a favorite track from either. Honorable mentions from Ariana's are honestly like pretty much all of them, but I really do like Obvious, I like POV, I like My Hair, I like West Side, I like Love Language. A lot of them, you know, really just make me feel like empowered. That's kind of just what I had deduced from this year, is I really like to feel good when I'm listening to music, and I had like so many sad playlists in the past, but that music just, I feel, kind of like traps me in a state that I don't like to be in. So definitely listening to Ariana helped me get through 2020. Shawn Mendes' album is one of those albums where you can just listen to it real loud with like the windows down, and you'll just feel like you're in like another place, and I really like that. It has a lot of like loud instruments, and it's very instrumental, and it's just very different from other works that he's produced in the past. So those two were definitely my favorite listens for this year. But again, I will have my playlists that are more, you know, inclusive and kind of comprehensive of like my entire year linked in the description below. I do have a few lifestyle favorites that I just cannot not mention, you know what I mean? So my first, I have actually been sipping on throughout this entire video. I became obsessed with chai tea this year. I don't know why, I don't know how, like I don't know what prompted me to want to drink chai tea, but I'm obsessed. My favorite chai tea that's already made is like the Tazo brand. I am obsessed with it. I love drinking it on its own or with a splash of like half and half or oat milk. That really just is it for me in my morning. I love the kind of slow caffeine that I get from it. That kind of just makes me feel like naturally like more energetic, as opposed to drinking coffee where I instantly feel it and then I instantly crash. That was definitely a huge favorite for me, as well as my bullet journal. I have talked about my bullet journal so much, and I can't even make a video without it in it. I am so upset because like on the last day of 2020, the little rubber band that kind of holds my bullet journal together broke. But honestly, journaling was my one like source of just salvation this year. I found such comfort in making spreads for my month and having everything laid out, and it just seemed like it was the only thing that I could control and just channel like all of my energy into. I think my bullet journal was a bit more like kind of like tasks and to do and organizing, but I really want to get into like free journaling and just kind of channeling all of my energy into like one place, and just being able to have like prompts or free journaling or just kind of manifesting and doing that and having like a space for that. That's something I'm really putting out into 2021, and I really want to hold myself like a bit more accountable to do that kind of journaling. I think I just really took the time this year to kind of invest more in myself, and I think in our society that's a little selfish, but for me it just kind of felt like I was very burnt out. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, from social like life and from academic life and just living in New York, like I don't think I was ready to be where I was before quarantine happened, and I am now looking forward so much to being in New York and seeing my friends and just living my life to the fullest. I feel so capable and like I have the tools to do it, where before I kind of felt like I was running on empty, and that's never really a great feeling. But really, quarantine allowed me to kind of recharge and recenter myself, like with my family and my friends and just myself. Like I have never spent this much time alone and just working on myself where I feel like really great. I don't know, this is a long-winded ramble, all to say, like I think this year coming up, like I am going to continue to invest in myself because I see it pay off. I am so happy. I am probably the happiest I've ever been in this year. So quarantine definitely taught me a lot, but I just wanted to say, like, I do feel like you can implement lifestyle changes however small they are. Chai tea made me a better person, honestly. Like it made me happier. It made me feel like I was, you know, exploring different kinds of like beverages, and in that, like I found the littlest joy in quarantine, like made me just so happy. So yeah, those are my lifestyle favorites. I know, very long-winded, but I did want to just kind of recap my 2020 within my like lifestyle changes that I definitely feel like I had. This year, I did consume a lot of content from a lot of different creators and from a lot of different platforms and outlets, but one thing that I did do this year that's worth mentioning is just kind of like filter the content that I was seeing. If I was following someone or like an account that didn't really bring me like a lot of joy, even if they weren't like an influencer, I just didn't see the value in doing that. So I think having like a social media account that now where I go, like I do feel inspired as I'm scrolling and it's not just mindless, like that makes me feel really good. I don't know, and because I don't really want to spend a lot of time on social media anyways, I'm glad that when I am on social media it feels like purposeful and like I'm gaining something from it, instead of just kind of seeing all of these lives that like I'm envious of and that I wish I had. So that's just a quick note, but I did have a lot of YouTubers that I loved this year, and I think they put out like some of the best quarantine and post-quarantine and pre-quarantine content. I've been following most of these people for a long time, but I just loved the content that they put out. Starting with mawhinney, I hope I'm saying that right. I know she's from Ireland and I am obsessed with her content. Her videos I discovered in quarantine, and she just put out such unique content that I was obsessed with. So I gotta give a big shout out to her. Margot Lee also put out really great content this year. She did a work from home and like a journal from home series, which was really great and fun and like easy to follow. Lexi Lombard, she had a quarantine series in New York, and that made me just really miss New York, but I really loved her content. It was really just inspiring to see her living her life on her own and just having like her own happiness. That really made me feel like I could tackle New York in a weird way, quarantine and all. Super quickly mentioning, I really loved Remy Ashten's vlogs this year. It took me a while to get into her, but I just love her energy in her vlogs. She's very real, and it just feels like she's taking you along with her in her life, which is highly inspiring. Also got into Maddie Bragg's cooking channel, which was really fun to watch. The way she edits her like videos is just so aesthetically pleasing that I'm so happy she's back on YouTube, as well as Lindsay Rem. I know they're roommates. Lindsay does a lot of like really cool content. Her What I Eat in a Weeks are really just inspiring to watch, and I really like her weekly vlogs and just like her sit down videos as well. She just seems like a very relaxed, cool person to be around. My last favorite, and probably like my most favorite content creator this year, was Jules. She has both a regular channel and then a vlog channel. I am a loyal subscriber to both, but I really, really love her vlog channel and seeing her life in Hawaii. It's so beautiful that it makes me feel like I'm there with her. Honestly, I loved seeing her go to the beach during quarantine and really just focus on herself. She has such a positive attitude about self-love and self-appreciation that honestly, again, inspired me to take like what she was saying to heart and kind of implement those practices into my daily life. But that was pretty much all of my favorite creators. I know it's a lot, but YouTube is one of my favorite sources for like content and just to see people live their different lives. So that was pretty much all of my favorite creators for this year. So those are all of my quarantine recommendations. I hope you guys enjoyed watching today's video. I know it was a bit of like a rambly and longer one, but nevertheless, I did want to make this video for you guys before 2021 got away from me. And it goes without saying that one of my favorite parts of 2020 was making this YouTube channel and being consistent with it. I know it took like a little while for me to get my momentum going and a little bit of consistency, but Vlogmas was definitely a highlight of my quarantine. Again, by far one of the best things I ever did, and just making videos for you guys. This has been such a great outlet for me, and I can't wait to make more content in the new year. But with all that being said, I will catch you in my next one.